Hello everyone. So welcome to the first session of our November monthly current affairs series. And today we'll be discussing indexes and reports. So firstly, some indexes report of the from the international. Starting with the Global Terrorism Index. Now, Global Terrorism Index is a very important index, right? We have already discussed this institution, that is Institute of Economics and Peace. This institute comes up with very important reports, and this institute is very important. Within the indexes report, I've already told you there are two types of questions. First type, very simple, straightforward questions that this index and report is given by which whom. And second is there are some indexes which are important for the findings as well. Now, findings, the reports whose findings are important are majorly from the major institutes such as World Bank, IMF, Niti Aayog, if we talk in the context of India. So you need to know not only the important institutions to solve these type of questions, but also the non-important ones. For example, we'll discuss with few examples as well. Now, coming back to this global terrorism index, so India ranks 8th in the world most affected by terrorism in 2019. The parameters, for example, number of terrorist incidences, fatalities, injuries, property damage. This data is also very crucial for your IR and also for your internal security in GS3 and GS2. Wherever you have to talk about the international cooperation, wherever you have to talk about the internal security situation, you can mention the Global Terrorism Index. It's a good figure. It's a good data that you can use alternatively. Next is World Risk Index 2020. Now, risk index is being the focus of risk index is forced displacement and migration. Now, has been one observation which has been seen from 2019 to 2020 that all the South Asian countries have slipped on their ability to adapt to the reality of the climate emergency. With respect to climate change, the South Asian countries, which are being said as the climate hotspots, because of the population pressure, because of still transitioning from, not transitioning, but still which are considering coal as a necessary evil, right? So coal is still considered as the necessary evil. Yes, it's an evil because it is against the climate priorities, but it is necessary. Why it's necessary? Because they cannot afford to transition to renewable energy like Germany, like EU, like USA. So the South Asian countries are the most important countries if we have to adapt to the climate emergency. Now, World Risk Report, it's a part of the World Risk Report released by United Nations University Institute for Environment and Human Securities and a university from Germany. Right? Calculate on the day-to-day basis based upon the exposure, vulnerability, and all these things. So India is ranked 89th on the World Risk Report. Right? Poorly prepared to deal with the climate reality. Highest risk is among the continent is Oceania is the highest risk. You can think also why is it the highest risk? Because of the Polynesia, Micronesia, Macronesia, followed by Africa and the America. Right. Next is Global Wealth Report. Wealth report given by Credit Suisse. Right. Now, wealth report we already discussed. This data is again very important with a very important global concern, that is inequality, wealth inequality, income inequality. So this data becomes important from that perspective as well. It highlights us, it has the same or similar observations which have been done earlier, that a lot of people holding, a very few people holding a lot of wealth and all these kind of things. For example, these news, right? Similarly, we have also read about the Oxfam reports, right? Every year Oxfam report comes country basis, world basis, and tell us about the global inequality which is there. So Credit Suisse is a report providing most comprehensive and up-to-date coverage on the information on the household wealth worldwide. Check. So only in India and China saw gain in the household wealth in the first half. So now they are coming up with the data on the COVID-19, how COVID-19 has affected the wealth creation and wealth distribution, right? So for example, top 1% hold 43% of the global wealth. India and China saw gains in the household wealth in the first half of the year. Female worker, millennial minority are the hit the most. Obviously, the pandemic will hit the most vulnerable, the most female, millennials and minorities, millennials who have lost their job. right? Coming back to the next one, that is academic freedom index. From the name itself, academic freedom index, so the index which calculates the academic freedom. You can yourself create a framework what will be the parameters on which the academic freedom will be created. Think yourself. For example, if you have to write an essay or an answer about an institutional autonomy in the education sector or higher education sector in India, institutional autonomy or freedom, academic freedom, importance of the academic freedom, why needs to begin, what efforts. So you need to know what are the parameters on the basis of which we can say that okay, academic freedom is there or not. So the news is that India registered low on the academic freedom index in the new international report. Chaliye. So it's been published by Global Public Policy Institution as the part of the Global Time Series dataset. It's an index which refers to scholars' freedom to express idea without the risk of official interference or the professional disadvantage. So the criteria is being institutional autonomy, campus integrity, freedom of academic and cultural expression, constitutional protection of the academic freedom. So you can, these are the small pillars, right? What constitutes academic freedom? That institute should have the autonomy, the culture within the institute should be fine, right? So India's performance scored low in with the score. No, don't have to remember the score. We just need to remember that obviously we are not scoring very well on this particular index. Chalo. Next is the top performance is Uruguay and Portugal top this and with the scores of this followed by Latvia. So top is not by this Norway and Sweden. So this is important. Uruguay itself is not important, but you need to just remember that in the academic freedom index, these upper countries, Scandinavian countries are not at the top, which are usually at the top in majority of the indexes. Now within India, we also have a framework, NIRF, National Institute of Ranking Framework, right? So for example, teacher training resources, research and professional practice, graduation outcomes, outreach and inclusiveness, perception. We already have our own index based upon which we calculate national institutional ranking framework, right? So it's a global index first, which we have discussed, this one academic freedom index, and this is the local index that which we have created for our own self. And we'll read, and we have already read last year, the ranking which being done of the institutions and all these things. Next is Brereton report. It's a very important report because in the question in the UPSC, you can ask Brereton report is in the news, why it's in the news. That's all. One very important area in Indian foreign policy is considered India's foreign policy in Afghanistan. Though it is not a very specific India-centric report, it doesn't mention India, but it is on the topic of the Afghanistan, which is a very important concern for India, right? Which is a very important concern for India. So the Britain War Crime reports why Australian Special Force troop may be sacked. So basically, the time that the Australian troops were being placed in the Afghanistan from 2005 and 2016, a lot of cases have been reported where a lot of Afghan civilians have been killed by these um, Australian special forces. For example, slitting of the throats have been done, and some of the barbaric things that they have come. So these are known as the war crime. So now the accountability is being set. This report is being published that these are the acts committed by the Australian Special Force, and some action needs to be taken. So just need to remember that Brereton report is related to the Australian actions in the Afghanistan. Next is averting a lost COVID generation. It's being released by UNICEF. So lost generation being, it is said in the context of the children, right? So we have to recover and imagine a post pandemic world for every child. For example, you must have experienced yourself. For example, a lot of children, those who are in the pandemic, lost their parents, right? One of the parents or both of the parents first, because children are least affected, as of the data we have now. Secondly, a lot of children have lost the years of their study because of the poverty. They have to leave their study and go to the child labor. They have to because of the poverty. For example, if they are already just above the poverty line, pandemic is struck, and they have no source of income, so the children have to come up. So that means the COVID infections have affected the children directly as well as indirectly. and it may result into a lost generation, which is being identified by the UNICEF. And that is why they have come up with a 6 point plan to respond to this particular crisis. Next is likelihood of the future pandemic report. From the name itself, likelihood of the future pandemic. I have discussed with you already. A lot of reports are not saying that these pandemics will be very repetitive in nature. The frequency of the pandemics will increase. Earlier, the frequency was 10 years, 20 years, but now the frequency will increase. We can all ourselves see first wave, second wave, now the third wave is also coming. So, this report is published by Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on the Biodiversity and Ecosystem. Right? It has warned that the future pandemics will emerge more often. They'll spread more rapidly to do more damage to the world and kill more people than COVID-19. Imagine if COVID-19 had more fatality rate. For example, in the second wave, we are all seeing the rate at which the people are dying. The fatality rate of the second wave is much more than the first wave, right? And the infectiousness nature of the second virus in the second wave is also more. We don't know about the third wave, right? So this report identifies that no, the after COVID doesn't mean that we have the COVID vaccine. That means that we are done, but it may lead to other coming pandemics, and hence we need to be pandemic prepared. Next, economic complexity index. Now, this is one of the index which I want to give you the example. You don't have to remember the name which institute has given it. Just have to remember that this index is not given by any reputed institution. If the question will be asked, the question will be, for example, IMF has given this, World Bank or WTO or Indian RBI has given this. No, right? So the index which ranks the country based upon the diversified and complex manufacturing exports basket, right? So which countries have the economic complexity? Less economic complex means low variety of exports with high ubiquity and low sophistication. And this more complex means wide variety of exports. For example, the resource based export, the countries which export the resources or the, for example, petroleum, right? Reserves, petroleum, coal, and they are dependent on that only. So those economies are not very complex. In fact, those are the economies which are the hardest hit whenever the resource price fluctuate in the international market. Next is body mass index, BMI. First of all, you need to in previously we used to study BMI. It's written in NCERT also. The formula needs to be adhered. For example, the is upon kg upon the meter square. So weight divided by the height and height square. So this is the formula of the BMI. So if your BMI is less than 18.5, then you're underweight. Healthy more than 25, overweight and more than 30 is obese. So this is the BMI index. You need to know about this index. Need to know about this body mass index, because in UPSC you can expect one simple question: body mass index. Following are the options 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you can expect a very easy question on the body mass index. So one report has said that lower BMI and shorter Indians. So the Indians, because of the kg divided by the meter square. If your weight is more and your height is less, your BMI score will be more, and more BMI score is not good. Here also one more question you need to remember, that the more the BMI score, and means it's bad, it's not good. So your BMI score should not be in the higher side. Okay, so it's been published by the Lancet and global analysis data of 34 years on the 200 countries. India's performance ranked low on the BMI among the shortest, 196 spot. You don't have to remember the 196 spot and all these things. More importantly, what is important is the body mass index itself. Now, coming back to India, two things that we have to read, that is global indices to drive reforms and growth. From the name itself, global indices which will drive reform and growth. Very good example can be given of the ease of doing business report. Indian government under the leadership of present Prime Minister has taken ease of doing business as a very important parameter. If you have read recent economic survey, that is global innovation index is also taken as a very, very important parameter on basis of which the government calculates or the government decides that where we are heading towards, right? What get measures get improved. That is the idea. So to fulfill India's measure and monitor India's performance on the various important social and economic parameters, the government has come up with 28 indexes. We will target these 28 indexes and we will try to improve upon those indexes. Okay? This process will be done by the Niti Aayog, that will be the nodal agency to do that. Obviously, Niti Aayog is an agency which is the one-stop shop for the your indexes part. The last fact that we have to study, that is interstate migrant policy index. If you remember last year, a huge migration that we have seen, right, from these cities to UP, Bihar, and people coming back to their cities. And the government at the end of the day said that we have no migrant data. Very, very not a pleasant situation for a government also. So, for example, this particular institution has come up with the index that which are the states which are doing well with respect to the migrant policy. Migrants play a very, very important role in a particular economy. For example, Bangalore's economy is led by the migrants. Kerala's economy is led by the migrants, right? So from UP, a lot of people go to Punjab in the agriculture. So migrants are very, very important. Now, this particular policy index talk about that. This is released by India Migration Now, IMN. It's a Mumbai-based research and non-profit regional adaptation of the international migration policy index. Right. So it's an index which ranks and compares all the state based upon their migration integration policies in child rights, education, health. That means if you're, for example, I'm going to Kerala or I'm going to Karnataka from UP. So how I'm treated there, whether I'm getting a proper education, child right, whether I'm integrated into that particular state or not, whether that state is able to provide me a proper basic necessity and services. So that is the idea. More than 1/3 of India's population is internal migrant. Right? Just 1 second. Right. So the three top states which have emerged are the Kerala, Goa, and Rajasthan, which are providing good, or which are good in this particular, which are being ranked as good in this policy index. For example, Kerala provides targeted schemes, social security, labor protection, welfare for the migrant workers. Rajasthan also does not have any restrictions on the domicile certificate. Domicile certificate, whether you live in the Rajasthan or not. Goa, favorable policies like information to the migrants in their native language, contracted to bear healthcare cost, and all these things. So that means that these states, Kerala, Rajasthan, Goa, are doing well. But it's the report recognizes that states tend to frame the discriminatory policies that favor the local over the interstate migrants. Domicile status constitutes one of the starkest of these. Migrant workers belonging to SC and ST are given more excluded from the cities because the migrant status is tied to the socio-economic status. Okay? So these are the observations of this particular policy index. Migration will become a very, very important area in our coming exams because of the pattern we have seen last year, and also the emerging pattern and the emerging schemes which are being taken up by the government of India. With this, we finish our today's session. See you all in the next session, Places in News. Thank you, everyone.